Good evening, good evening, good evening, and welcome to Couch Conversations with the Doctors, where health is wealth. What night is it tonight? It is Monday night, and it is time for Couch Conversations with the Doctors. As always, we're going to go around introducing our esteemed panel of guests, starting with the man who tells me that I threaten him to be here every Monday, but he always seems to be on time. That's our very own Dr. James Miller. Dr. Miller?
Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Nikki and Congressman Davis, for um, this platform that we're able to utilize to inform our community of health issues as well as just things that
If
will
you
help to
decide
make them
what
well. So we're happy to be here to be able to share and to be able to answer the question that exists in the community that those who are watching us would like to have answered. So. Thank you for inviting me.
Outstanding. Well, to my colleague who tends to leave me and go and have fun in the sun, but now he's here. That's Dr. Douglas Graham. Doug?
Well, thank you, Nikki. I don't think I could blame for looking for a little bit of fun at this time of life. However, I want to say that it's a real honor and pleasure to be here. This event began during COVID. There's a tremendous amount of misinformation, disinformation, and I'm sad to say that hasn't changed very much. So it's really important to hear a unbiased, uncommercially affected advice about the events that are going on in healthcare. And it's a real honor to be here with the Congressman and my colleagues.
Outstanding, outstanding. Well, I think Dr. Mason just fell off, and I know he'll probably be back, but Congressman?
Well, let me just thank everybody for being involved, being engaged. You know, summertime is an interesting time of the year. Uh, it does something for people, it reinvigorates people. I have participated this weekend in so many wonderful activities to see people out and about. The Bud Billiken Parade, which was the 97th time that the Singstack family and the Abbott descendants and all have put this great event on in the city of Chicago. 97 years they've done the Bud Billiken Parade. I think this may have been one of the largest parades. It has been one of the most patronized parades. It went on all day long. I don't know when people stopped, but I ended up walking a good part of the parade without my walking stick. I had not intended to, but once you got started, you just kind of kept going. So, hats off to all of the people that I saw along the route. Then I left there and went out to Bellwood, Illinois, to the Taste of Bellwood and hobnobbed with the mayor and the trustees and all the people in that community who came out. It was like they had every kind of food that one could imagine. And I just wanted to gobble up as much of it as I possibly could. But I tried to remember, not get too carried away. But it was just a great event. Sunday, same thing. My goodness. People were having outdoor church services. And I managed to get to three of them outdoors, wearing blue jeans. That must be a time when they decide that they were going to dress down. But it was just, and then of course, we got caught in a thunderstorm, and the people were opening a new um, funeral service right at Madison and Homan. And the person who opened it, she and her husband had gone to Malcolm X College, to the school, the mortuary program there, and to know that there are individuals coming full circuit right in the community. And even though it rained like a thunderstorm, we still had the event and didn't have to drink muddy water. So we did all right. I hope we're talking this evening about the impact of hospital closings and what does that really do in terms of providing the health services and the health care that is so greatly needed. And is there any way that we can compensate for that? I mean, is there anything that can be done that will take some of the sting out of hospitals? Every time I drive by West Suburban, which is almost every day, I get a little feeling in my chest. And it's not a physical feeling, it's an emotional feeling in terms of hoping that that hospital is going to be reopened. Or when I think of Weiss being closed and how challenging it is to keep these facilities going, and to know that it's not the first time I have experienced hospital closing in our state, because I can remember right here in the community where I am, we had the hospital that Illinois Central, the family owned two or three of those. And of course, we've seen St. Anne's close, and the community that I live in went through
Come on, yeah.
this challenge to try and not have, first of all, the buildings become an eyesore in the community, but also how do we make up for the care that's going to be lost? So I hope we will dig into that a bit this evening and see what you gentlemen have on your mind in response to that question.
Well, that is absolutely phenomenal. And Dr. Miller has a lot to say because he's already unmuted himself. But right before Dr. Miller gets started, I want to say hey to Audrey Jaycox, who is here. She says, good evening, everyone. Also want to say hey to President Carrie Steele, who is here. And she says, Congressman, I'm going to call you back shortly. So
All right.
yeah, so she's going to be calling you back. So I want to say hey to Alderman Pat Dow, who is here with us just as well. She is here. I want to say hi to the guys over in the garage who is listening adamantly and says that they enjoyed the rerun on last Monday. So thank you for enjoying the rerun. Want to say hey to the Black Fire Brigade and also to our very finest, the Chicago Fire Department, who is here watching just as well. Pamela Dominguez is here and she says, good evening to everyone. It's been a while since she's been here. Well, Pam, thank you for being back. Well, Dr. Miller, take it away.
Well, as I look at the question or the point that was raised in terms of closing of hospitals and what kind of effect they're going to have on the communities, I'm bothered by the fact that I look at those, at least those two hospitals, and they are in communities where there's already, health inequities, where there's a difficulty in terms of making certain that all the people that are living in those communities are served timely and receive quality health care. So those are things that bother me, and those are communities that where other kinds of inequities exist. But whatever community that one is in, where there's inadequate health care, there's a problem with that. And the problem is that it leads to unnecessary suffering, unnecessary death, and just and it also leads to there's a domino effect as well. In other words, when one hospital is not able to provide the service and so it closes, other hospitals will get the overflow. Not the overflow, meaning those patients that would have been going to West Suburban, those patients that would have been going to Weiss, now are going to other hospitals who are already, most of them feel to capacity in terms of what they can provide, the care. And so the effect of that is not just the local effects, but that effect is reaches out to other hospital facilities in terms of what they can do. So what we hear is that those other surrounding hospitals are now having a longer wait time for patient to get seen. Other thing that people are complaining about is that it's taking them longer to get to hospital because they might have been 5 minutes from West Suburban, but now they're longer. They're further from other hospitals that they would have to go when they need the services, especially the emergency service. And these are issues when 5 minutes can make a great deal of difference if a person is having a heart attack or having a stroke or some other acute emergency kind of event in their life. And so these are the kinds of problems that it causes suffering. It causes loss of life that may otherwise have been prevented had those services and those hospitals continue to operate and provide the care that they had previously been authorized to provide, and that they had declared that they were going to provide. So these are difficult issues and difficult things for the community to absorb and to deal with.
Doug, let me ask you if I could. Trying to reopen. I mean, I think it's going to take a lot of public effort and public money. I mean, one thing we don't always talk a great deal about is money. And of course, we live in a capitalistic society where our economic being is based upon capitalism and making use of public money. I mean, I think of certain kinds of bailouts when I drive by Providence Hospital, and when I associate the salvation or the saving of Providence Hospital when Sinstack, and I thought of the Sinstack family because they're the ones who really started the Bud Billiken parade and have kept it going. But it was actually Mr. Sinstack working along with John Stroger, who kind of kept Providence open by having it become part of a public system. That is, the Cook County government incorporated Providence into its system. And that's really what kept Providence from just going totally out of business, notwithstanding its historic presence in a community founded by Dr. Daniel Hale Williams, who also, went down in history as having performed the first open heart surgery that was successful. Do you think the public is willing to put any more money into keeping an institution open?
So I want to answer that a number of different ways. And the first way is, number one, I think that's a template that's been successfully implemented in many other states and communities. so that when you do have what we would call a safety net hospital, the way that these systems survive is becoming public and in networks rather than as individual hospitals. One of the problems we face is who buys these hospitals. If private equity buys them, the prices go up, the quality goes down. If we have an individual who buys them, like in the case of West Suburban and Weiss, sometimes the management isn't as good as if there had been public participation and public supervision. I also think that it's an investment in public health. As Dr. Miller has said, when these hospitals close, then those people have to go somewhere else, which leads to more backlogs, more delays, and more ill health. So I would look at this as an investment in public health, but not only that, but also in the economy of the country. We know that these hospitals are economic engines in the community where they exist. There is jobs, there are opportunities, people have to provide services, there has to be food, there has to be catering, there has to be electricians, there has to be all kinds of other jobs that are available. Once you close that hospital and lose those jobs, that impacts revenue to the state because where are those people going to earn their salaries and pay their taxes? So I look at that as an investment in the economy, an investment in public health. And for people saying that's communistic, no, that's just being prudent. That's just saying that in order to have a peaceful society, people have to have economic opportunities and they have to have good health. We learned from COVID, a sick population is a sick economy, and then we don't thrive. So it is the best investment we can make, far better than a data center, far better than buying Bitcoin. I mean, quite frankly, you have to invest in human beings because we don't know where the next great invention or great idea is going to come from. We don't know where the next great musician is going to come from. Why would we want to take the chance and let that person's health fail because of somebody's decision about where the dollar should go? One person, one group of people should not have that much power over an entire city, state, or nation.
Well, let me ask you, Dr. Miller, there are still some states where the quality of care is not as high as in other places, but some states that refuse to expand or accept or make use of the Medicaid money that the federal government had available. Yet those individuals now are areas that are experiencing inequities, unequal services, unequal treatment, and the people still support the individuals and the systems that takes away from them as opposed to providing for them. How do you think they rationalize making those kind of decisions?
I think people tend to look at certain things in terms of one of the things that's important is that we have a tendency to look at what our situation are, what surround us individually, and then we look at other communities, and if those communities maybe don't have the same set of circumstances that we have, we don't always give equal value to their well-being, their needs, if they can't afford it. And as you said, we live in a capitalistic society, and in these societies, there is a situation where where they say money talks, and there's another part on it. I won't say that, but but the problem is again that these things are are attached to money. I mean, you can't operate a hospital without having money. That's a necessary thing, and but so I think people sometimes look at it and they sort of look at, well, the system is utilizing money, and they look at the numbers, the healthcare dollars, and then we start to saying, well, it's out of hand, and when things are out of hand, we have to blame somebody for it. And so who do we blame? We blame those that can't pay, because we look at them as saying, well, they are costing us money that we could use to do other things with. Now, we all should have a decent heart about us, and be concerned about and love for our fellow man, regardless of who they are, what they are, and where they live, and all these kinds of things, what their economic situation are, and also be concerned that they do receive the necessary things that are important to living. And when we look at those things, we can begin to remove some of these other things that we're concerned about in terms of the number of dollars spent. Yes, a lot of money goes into healthcare. It's a very expensive venture. Now, all of it is not necessary because of what people are getting. Some of it is because of the type of system that we have, where those that are selling, they sell very high. They sell drugs are very expensive, and we look at situations, and we look at the same drugs that are sold in the U.S. for a certain amount. People can buy those same drugs in Canada for a lot less. And so the system itself, one who has the drug is want to get the most money out of it. And that's part of capitalism. But at the end of the day, I think that we all have to realize that we got to provide health care for everybody. Now, so I think when we look at it, we say, now, what is the best way to do it? How can I do this most economically? How can I do it in such a way that it's not impacting me or my family or my community in a way that is preventing us from having some of the things that we want to spend money on? And so I think when I say that healthcare costs will continue to rise as long as diseases are not controlled, as long as new diseases. I mean, if we went back and we were looking at the healthcare costs, and then when COVID came in, we look at those costs, and I think we'll realize that the cost of taking care of people rose. It became higher because of this disease and because of people being sick. So the answer here is, how do we look at doing things and creating systems that keep people from getting sick? And the diseases come and they go, but if we really know, we understand, and this was really front and center when COVID came, that the people who were already sick had a much more difficult time in getting through and surviving COVID, as opposed to those who were not didn't have any chronic illness or had chronic illness. So we need to look at so if we talk about healthcare, we have to begin to look at, now, how can we prevent disease? So we're talking about prevention, and we don't I know of late we've been really thinking about doing those preventative things where we talk about making certain that you're getting your healthcare screen done, that you're getting your blood pressure and your blood sugar checked, and that you're managing those diseases. But I think that when we talk about health, we have to look at people who are healthy and say, how do I keep them healthy? How do I keep people from getting diabetes? Type 2 diabetes has nothing to do with what you were born with. It has to do with things that are occurring in your life after you've been here for a while. And so what I'm saying is that we need to begin to make certain that we're teaching people how to be healthy, and that we're providing those things that keep people healthy. And prevention is the best way that we can lower the cost. Prevention is the best way that we can prevent people from having to use our emergency services and those things as much. And when we look at the at the cost center for healthcare, inpatient hospital is where you're going to spend the most money. When people have to become an inpatient, their daily cost of healthcare it will increase, as opposed to those people who are able to receive their care on an ambulatory basis. So we have to really focus and refocus our attention to prevention of diseases, as opposed to just looking to manage diseases. So I think that's an important thing.
So I'd like to add a couple other thoughts to this. Congressman?
Yeah, go ahead.
So one is we have a whole system of state-supported education, whether it's elementary school, junior high school, junior colleges, state colleges, and universities. So there's absolutely a precedent for doing that for healthcare. We could have urgent clinics, we could have certain outpatient centers, and we could have safety net hospitals that are supported by the state. So this really isn't communistic. This is actually how you run a healthy society. But number two, I want to share this with everyone. While I was working in your office, I had a discussion with a professor at the Sloan School of Business at MIT who said, we're using the wrong accounting system for healthcare. And that's one of the reasons why things are so expensive. People are so concerned about spending money today. They don't understand that the investment in health is long-term. There is an algorithm that can predict chronic illnesses, that can predict autoimmune diseases. Yet we're using the same kind of algorithm that they used to estimate shipping losses in England in the 16th century. So the entire mathematics and accounting system for healthcare has to change so that we have a distribution of resources that keeps people healthy rather than keeps them from accessing healthcare. So that's a major, major action that's going to take a lot of conflict and fighting to come to the recognition that this is a self-defeating system the way that's presently organized. It can't be focused on the cost of acute care. It has to be focused on the cost of letting people become ill and then helping them recover their health. That's why prior authorization is a devastating long-term economic impact. That's why step therapy has a devastating long-term economic impact. We need those calculations to be brought into the public, and we need to make sure that when people vote, they're not influenced by the potential of campaign contributions. And that's one of the problems that we're facing. And that's a Supreme Court decision where large companies and large institutions can have large super PACs. I think that totally defeats the process of running a democratic society. Then it becomes socialism for those who can contribute the most and something else for those who can't. So the source of health and equity, it's right there.
Do you think it would be as rewarding to individuals who were interested in medicine to put more emphasis on health as a part of medical treatment or the profession? I'm saying an individual who's interested in making use of themselves and they spend much of learning and practicing prevention as opposed to learning and practicing curative approaches. Would it be as satisfying, as rewarding to do that?
So I'm not sure how to answer that question because my entire interest in medicine was to restore health. And the people that I trained with and worked with and interacted with throughout my career had really the same goals. We wanted to take people who are affected by an illness or an injury and restore them back to as close to a normal state of health as we could, as safely as we could. So I know that there are individuals who are oriented towards doing procedures for pay, but those were not the majority of the people that I encountered during my career. I think it might be hard because I don't know that you have a medical school admissions committee process that would help you identify those who, because I think that people might, if they understood that they would be selected against, they would change their application, they would change their interview responses. I just know that those people exist, but in my experience, they were in the minority. And even among the surgeons that I knew, most of them took pride in knowing when to do the right procedure and when not to operate. And that was, how they built their practice, how they built their reputation. So the people that I knew who were otherwise usually were not those who were held in the highest regard or had the most respect of their peers. But this was 20, 30 years ago. I'm not sure I know exactly what the environment is like today.
Well, I'll just say, being a primary care physician for 40 years, I got more satisfaction out of keeping people healthy,
Yeah.
than I would having to deal with people who were unhealthy and again, I mean, there was no one procedure or anything that I was doing, but I mean, over that period of time, I can recall situations where, I was able to reduce the number of medication people took, and people were feeling a lot better. And those are the things that really motivated me. Seeing them better, seeing them happier with life, and seeing them not sick, not in the hospital. I remember, people that in my early years of practice, or early years of engagement with them, I spent a lot of time visiting them in hospital beds. And as time went, and we were able to get them on a different regimen in terms of how they took care of themselves, that we spent more time together in the office than we did in the hospital. And so that was rewarding, and also we had much better conversation. I enjoyed the conversation when they come in, and now they're telling me about how well they are, as opposed to how much they're hurting, or how much they are having difficulty with their breathing. And their response was that, I'm so happy that I met you, because some of the stuff that I've been going through, I'm not going through that now. Some of the medications that used to make me sick, but I took them because I thought it was necessary, that I don't have to take now, and still my blood pressure or my blood sugar or whatever it is that they were dealing with is still controlled. So I think there's rewards in that. Now, obviously, people, it's exciting to resuscitate someone and see them live. That's a very exciting event, but that's just one event. To then have an encounter with that person, and to say, remember what their situation was, and now you're seeing them in a better state of health, and those kinds of things. That's an exciting event. But in terms of a career, in terms of a life, I think that we get more rewards out of seeing people do well, seeing people not sick, not seeing people in hospital beds, but seeing them on the street, or in the grocery store, or at church, or at other places, and being able to engage in conversation with them, just as neighbors and friends. And so I think that those things, like I said, are be just as rewarding, or you're going to find the individual that understands what it is that I'm doing now, and when they are taught differently. I mean, see, the problem right now is that the teaching is that you are a detective, and you're supposed to find diseases, as opposed to saying your job is to make certain that everybody is as healthy as they possibly can, and that you're doing, and that they're using the things and procedures, such as eating the right food, drinking the right amount of water, getting the right amount of exercise, getting the right amount of sleep, handling stress in a better way. Uh, uh, I mean, those are the kinds of things that I think is the most rewarding. As a primary care doctor, that I, over my lifespan, that and I just think that that's the thing that one would, if you understood your value in doing those things, how much more beneficial it is than just the intervention of having to put person on a lot of medications, and medication is sometimes necessary, but if you can prevent them from having to take those medicine, I mean, my wife was telling me about a lady she had a conversation with a couple of weeks ago, and this lady's taking 50 medicine a day. That is that's unbelievable. How can you take that many pills a day? That don't make any sense. I mean, I mean, I don't know what kind of, what was her problem in terms of why she's taking that, but if she she's going to be sick from everything that you take has potential side effects. And just, you just recognize the possible side effect that she could be having taking 50 different kinds of medication. So I think that yes, prevention is key in healthcare. Prevention is key, and yeah, we want people to be saved. That if someone has a ruptured appendix, it needs surgery. That's fine. But if I can prevent a person, I mean, I remember one of my task that I was given during, I think I was maybe a second, I don't think I was second or third year resident, and I was doing my nephrology rotation. And the topic was to look at the cost that it takes to take care of a person with hypertension and compare that cost to what happens and what would be the cost if a person who had hypertension did not receive the proper care. We know that if you control, for instance, we know that a person, if you control their blood pressure, that they're not at any more risk of developing heart attack, kidney failure, stroke than anyone else in the population, as long as it's controlled. And so we looked at that. Yes, it costs. The cost, okay, I got it. The person may have to take a pill every day. The person has to eat better. The food may cost a little bit more than, if they're eating, the fast food. It may or may not cost as much, but it takes time and you got to plan it. So all of these things go into that. But look what happened when a person has hypertension and is not controlled. They have strokes. And what happened when a person has stroke? First of all, there's a healthcare cost. They most of them are hospitalization. So they have that problem. The person may be disabled and no longer is able to provide for himself and his family. The person is going to require more physician visits, monitor things more. And so, so when we look at that and we look at the other complications, if you develop renal failure because you went years and didn't control your hypertension, now you're on dialysis or you need to have a kidney transplant. These are costs that are much more, much higher than it would be if you were taking other measures to control your blood pressure and kept that blood pressure under control. So I think we have to look at those things. And then, yes, I would rather make certain that I kept somebody's blood pressure. I helped the person to keep their blood pressure.
Hold on 1 second, Dr. Mason. Go ahead, Dr. Miller. Were you done?
Yeah. So I would feel a lot better if I help a person to maintain and keep their blood pressure under control and they're healthy. They didn't have a stroke, didn't have a heart attack, don't have kidney failure, than I would just once a person has had a stroke and now I'm helping them to get through the complications of their stroke. Those are dramatically different courses that individual has to take, and the cost is much less if you control their blood pressure as opposed to allowing the in-organ damage to occur by them not controlling their blood pressure.
Well, thank you so much. Connie Taylor is here and she says good evening to everyone. Sandel Scott is here. She also says good evening. Hello. Pamela Dominguez says excellent overview, prevention versus management. Sandel says the doctors. That's what she says. Pamela also says amen, Dr. Miller and Dr. Graham. Curative and preventive. Now we have Dr. Mason. We have him virtually here with us, but we have him on audio only. He's having some problems with his camera. Real quickly, Jimmy from the Guys in the Garage says, thank you, Dr. Miller, for sharing. My doctor seems to be happy when he sees me thriving. When I am thriving, he's excited. When I am not thriving, my doctor is upset with me and upset with the system. He also reminds me all the time to make sure that I ask questions every time he writes a prescription. For example, how long I should take this medicine? How many months does he think I'll be on it? When can I come off of it? And what do I have to do different? I learned this from this program. So thank you so very much, Congressman Davis. Well, Dr. Mason, go right ahead.
Yeah, I'm just going to say that it's really, really, really important to have this opportunity.
Dr. Mason? Well, I think his audio is going in and out. So go ahead, Doug. You had something to say
Yeah,
until we can get Dr.
I want to
Mason back.
address this issue because I've said before, and it has to do with stakeholder alignment in terms of who are all the players in the healthcare field. And I think that rather than a fee for service, which I think creates conflict, we ought to have compensation based on outcomes. And that has to do with the insurance companies and the hospitals and the pharmaceutical companies, so that when people do better, everybody does better. But if they're not doing better, you shouldn't profit off of that. And my concern is, I'm sure Dr. Miller's seen this, you can have two people do the same work, get paid the same, but the quality of the work isn't the same. And that creates problems and gaps in healthcare. So rather than saying fee for service, it should be outcome. And that is keeping people healthy early, preventative medicine, early diagnosis, early treatment, successful treatment, and not going through the idea of failing an inferior drug first to get to the better drug last. That's, I can't imagine someone manufacturing a car and putting in fail first parts in that car so that they were always being towed into the shop. That would never work. I can't imagine any manufacturing building a house with fail first parts in the house. The contractor would be going out of business just like that. So we have to kind of reorganize this. Like I said, I think I'm with the congressman that there should be public support for hospitals and outpatient facilities, whether they're federal qualified healthcare centers, community health centers, urgent care centers, because not everyone needs to go, but an urgent care center could be a good entry point, can take care of a cut, a scratch, a burn, minor injury. I mean, people have to have access to care because we know the sooner it's addressed, the less economically expensive it's going to be. The longer it's kind of like if you've got a problem with rust in your boat, the longer you let it rust, the harder it is to fix, the more it costs. It's just simple life experience.
Dr. Mason, you're back?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay,
I'm here.
go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that we've got to be honest about this conversation. And while I agree with much of what my colleagues have to say, I must interject that the issue is that we are not trained to prevent and cure disease necessarily. And we're not working with the group of people that could best do that for both our younger people as well as the older. And I'm just going to take the privilege here to say that most of what I learned wasn't learning about. It was about how to become a better prescriber of medications. Now they were important, but our system does not place enough value on what we need to do to get healthy and stay healthy beyond medications. And I learned that as I was going through actually working on erectile dysfunction, because I learned that was a dietary disease. Erectile dysfunction was a dietary disease. It's the food that we were eating that was creating problems with the blood flow in penis that allowed erectile. And that same problem also happening in others. Particularly, it was happening in those areas where we have blood being circulated throughout different organs in our body. And I'm going to say this because it's true, but people will be a bit upset about it. But we are not trained as physicians, not trained to try and
Okay.
And some of the I'll say is this.
Okay, I think his audio went out.
To make the strides that would kind of results that, and we have been trained, the distributors, that's what we're based on the disease that we use to diagnose them. So I'm not saying medication shouldn't be used. Never would I say that. But what I am saying is that what we need to do, I went to school in medical school, we had about 1 hour, a little more than an hour of time in our training courses around nutrition. One, that's it. And so what I'm saying is that we don't ever even get to trying to get people to understand the relationship between the diseases that they have and the diseases they wouldn't have if we were doing something different with our dietary intake. And so we don't get that as physicians. We had one lecture for approximately 30 to 40 minutes on nutrition, one in 4 years. And so, and I'm thinking that we're not getting much more than that now. So I think that one of the things that I would love to see is us, me and everyone else, really getting people to understand that the relationship, first of all, we can't cure things with pills and potions. What we have to do, and they may be helpful, but what we do need to do is make sure that we understand the nature of the diseases that we get so that we can use the real things that would help us keep our population healthy. And obviously, if pills are necessary and other things are necessary, but we can eradicate a lot of disease if we did a better job in making sure that people understood the role that food has with every single disease that we currently treat.
Well, outstanding. Pamela Dominguez says, speak truth, Dr. Mason, speak truth. Well, Dr. Miller, what's your thoughts?
My response, I agree 100% with what Dr. Mason is saying. And, for those that may not have had some difficulty with his audio, he's saying that we need to be trained, that we need to train medical students and doctors differently than they've been trained in the past. The emphasis has to change, and we have to focus more on health and prevention of diseases than just focusing on finding and controlling diseases. Yeah, we want, if the person has a disease, we certainly want to deal with that, but we want to make certain that people are compensated for doing a good job at preventing people from getting sick, and that is necessary.
So I'm going to have to call you back because I'm in the middle of couch conversations. Give me about 15 minutes. I'll call you back.
So I'd like to jump in and just talk again about stakeholder alignment. And I really agree with what Dr. Miller and Dr. Mason says, but the problem that we have on the other side of this is we have a very big agricultural industry that stocks your supermarket shelves with cookies, candies, chips, and things that are clearly unhealthy for you. And we have another part of the agricultural industry that says we're going to sell you combustible products for you to inhale, which is about the most damaging thing you can do for your health. So while I think it's good to train doctors that way, we also have to change the economic incentives in our society that we don't produce those products that make us sick, that drive up healthcare costs.
Absolutely.
That's like a real double whammy. Maybe those are the people who ought to be paying for the safety net hospitals and the public health clinics.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, Dr. Graham. We're living in times when it's kind of, oftentimes we look at the things that we as physicians that we are trying to do, and we look at who and what we are working against. It's like you're trying to climb up a steep hill and somebody's pouring water down the hill right in front of you, making it that much more difficult because the thing that you're trying to teach and the things that you're trying to get people to understand is being made more difficult because of, and even when we look at food, and I understand if you're in the business of selling food, what do? You're going to try to find things that will make a person buy those foods. And so taste, people go and buy stuff according to if it looks good and tastes good, then they feel that it is good. but taste can also be is not the most important thing. The most important thing, am I getting the nutrition that I need from this food product? Am I taking in things that are going to damage my cardiovascular system or put me at increased risk of developing a cancer or some other kind of disease? I think that that comes with a lot of things, because part of it is the physician, but I think we have to have a better system of educating the people too, so that they understand what risk things are and what things are healthy and good for them, and try to figure out, because everything has a cost to it, and if you continue to spend your money buying stuff that is damaging your body, that's a cost there, and that cost is that you're going to probably end up in doctor's office and hospitals, and you're going to have to pay for that. And as opposed to, if you are doing those things that keep you healthy, keep your cardiovascular system functioning normally, you probably not going to have to spend all those days in the hospital, and maybe won't have to take a certain amount of medication, may not have to have certain operative procedures. So, but that has to be taught. People have to understand that. And unfortunately, what happens in our society is that a lot of times people don't start to being taught about a problem when they have it, as opposed to prior to them getting it. It's good to know that if I go down this dark road that I can't see, that there's some bad things that are going to happen to me, and this and this and this. But if I take a different street that I can see, maybe I'll avoid some of those things. And I just think that we have to avoid these issues.
Well, we have a comment
here about.
Go ahead, Dr. Mason. Go ahead.
I'm just going to say we have to look at what the value proposition is. There's, and I know this is going to sound really horrible, but I have to tell you because it's the truth. Proposition and the way we're even.
Okay, so his audio went out again. So we have a viewer that says, I believe they are working together to keep us sick. We are introduced to the foods early in life that hones on our taste buds to them. It's much later people learn the negative effects. You're absolutely right, because I remember when I was in love with RC. Oh my God. I was so in love, and the best thing after you drank an ice cold RC was when you could say, because it was so refreshing. I'm so glad I became allergic to the caramel colored soda and that I could not drink it no more. It was probably one of the best things that ever happened to me. So yes, I understand. Well, I know you guys hate to hear when I say this, and that is, it's our time. I know you guys hate to hear that, but I do have a couple announcements that I have to make. So I want you guys to pull out your calendars and mark your calendars right now. So pull out your schedules and mark them up. One, this Saturday, Congressman Davis's 47th annual back to school picnic parade and World Health Day. And there's also some technology in the park. So remember, the picnic and parade and World Health Day is this Saturday. Meet us at Central in Bloomingdale as we kick off the parade, and we will march down Central all the way into Columbus Park, where we will have a big parade, backpacks, hot dogs. We'll have some vendors out there just as well doing some additional things. And of course, we have our healthcare pavilion. So if there's immunizations or anything or information that you need, make sure that you join us Saturday in Columbus Park. The healthcare in the park portion should jump off probably about 11 or 12 once the picnic is wrapping up. But join us for the step off bright and early in the morning, right at Central and Bloomingdale, as we march down to Columbus Park, which is at Central and Jackson. So I wanted to share that with you. Then also want to share with you, the Congressman has a great birthday party that will be coming up. That is Saturday, September 6th. That's the first Sunday. So I guess we're going to have communion at the birthday party, because that is the first Sunday of September. So meet us as we celebrate the Congressman's born day, as we celebrate his birthday. And don't forget my birthday is 3 days later. So with that being said, Dr. Miller, you're until next Monday.
I hope that The information that we provided tonight is something that will first make people think. Uh, think about what it is that you're doing, what you could be doing, and the effect of what you're doing on your body, on your health. And I think that when we think about it, as opposed to just doing it without the thought process going into play, that we probably are going to be a little bit more careful in terms of what it is that we ingest and what we don't ingest, because it's important also that we take in those nutritious food that we ought to take in, as and avoid those food that does damage to our body system. So we hope that the information that we provide is going to be helpful, and I hope that you will it will um, give you the mindset that, you know what, I'm going to take my health care. I'm going to take charge of my health care, and I'm going to begin to. I'm going to take some responsibility for it, and I'm going to see what I can do, because ultimately you're going to either have the advantage or the disadvantage that comes from what it is that you do. I mean, so if there's disease and suffering from your what you do, you're the one that's going to have to bear that burden and pay that price. If there's good health and happy time, you're the one that's going to enjoy that. And so, you know, I hope that you will do the things that are going to bring joy and happiness to your life and good health and long life.
Outstanding, outstanding. Well, Doug, you're until next Monday.
Well, I'm just going to say two things. And one is, I'm just saying to Representative Davis, I do think you can make a very strong economic case for federal and state supported hospital and healthcare systems just to keep people healthy, because when you keep them healthy, the economy grows. And when they're unhealthy, that leads to more problems. So we'll just have a safer and healthier society with it. Number two, read the labels. The amount of sugar and salt that's in your food isn't appearing there by accident. Every one of those companies that makes these foods has done studies to know how to get you hooked. So the best way to stay healthy and not feed them, but take care of yourself, is to look how much salt and sugar. If you saw how much sugar is in a can of pop, you would never put that in a cup of coffee. You absolutely wouldn't be able to drink it. If you saw
Mm-hmm.
how much salt was in something, you wouldn't put it in your soup because you couldn't drink it. So protect your health. Look at the labels. Stay away from the high salt and high sugar stuff. You'll be healthier and happier in the long run.
Outstanding. Well, Congressman, as always, take us home.
Well, let me thank all of us for a very stimulating discussion, notwithstanding the fact that the technology kind of hampered Dr. Mason a little bit. But thank us all. And, I never told you, Dr. Miller, that, while I knew your family in terms of your brothers who are all outstanding ministers, and I knew that your father owned the lounge that I used to frequent, uh, the Texas Lady sometime. But your stock really went up with me when I saw you in the Jackson Square nursing home, visiting with people there who needed the information and the care that you was providing for them. I mean, that's when I kind of said to myself, you know, this guy is a real, real doctor in the hood. And so I don't think I ever told you that,
But I really appreciate hearing that from you.
but, but that's your stock really shot up. Um, tomorrow actually we're going to stop by and celebrate the 100th birthday for a fellow named Gus Rickett. People know him as Uncle Remus. That's he had the Uncle Remus uh, fast food restaurants and all that. But Gus is having his 100th birthday tomorrow, and it's always in the backyard, that kind of thing. But it's going to be on Madison Street near one of the restaurants. So we just want to give a shout out to him and to his family for his endurance, his long years of engagement in the community, and of course the joy that some of us have experienced sampling, uh, his barbecue chicken and that kind of thing. I also want to give a little shout out to my cousin, Alderman Coleman, whose father is actually my cousin, which means she's my cousin. And her father came from the same little town that I came from in Arkansas. And of course, he has passed away, and his homegoing celebration is going to be on Saturday, which I can't attend because of the picnic and parade. But I just wanted to express to Alderman Stephanie Coleman our condolences, and I will miss seeing some of my family and that kind of thing. But thanks all. It is indeed and was a great discussion that I think has a tremendous amount of meaning. And as we continue to travel up this road or down this road, we are trying to improve quality of life. And that's what it really is all about. Not only do we want to be around as long as we can, but we also want to have the quality of being that we can. So thank you all. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the evening. And we hope to see you next Monday. Have a good one.
Outstanding. Well, right before we go, just a few more. I want to say hey to Winona Redmond. Winona says she apologizes for calling in the middle of the show. She just thought I couldn't see her. And Winona, I saw you. I was going to get to you. Want to say hey to Jack Orloff, who is here with us just as well. Hey, Jack, how are you doing? Thanks for being here with us. To Sharon Grant, who is here with us. To the Southside Ministers Conference, who is here with us. And also to Pastor Hester, who is here with us just as well. Thank you for watching and listening and sharing. Hey, Greg Winfield, thank you so much. Josie Ware is here with us just as well. So is Jared Campbell. I want to say thank you for you guys being here with us. And remember to stop by on next Monday. Have a great one.
All right.